Please stand. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and all the blessings that you bring us every day. Please guide our thoughts and our actions and our words as we serve our Cherokee citizens. In Jesus' name, amen.
Yes, sir. Rex Jordan.
Here.
E.O. Smith.
Here.
Keith Austin.
Here.
Danny Callison.
Here.
Julia Coates. Sean Crittenden. Joe Deere. Mike Dobbins.
Here.
Johnny Kidwell.
Here.
Daryl Legg.
Here.
Wes Snowfire. Dora Petzkowski.
Here.
Joshua Sam.
Here.
Mike Shambaugh.
Here.
Melvina Shot Pouch. Condesa Teehee. Victoria Vasquez. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Need approval of the minutes from September the 13th. Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Reports, Management Resources, Mr. David Moore.
Good afternoon. Y'all have a report, and I'll try to answer anything I can. If I can't get it answered, I will get it to y'all as soon as I can.
Any questions for David? Yes, sir, Speaker.
Are you going to be here for the whole meeting? You got to go somewhere.
I'll be here until you tell me I can
Okay.
leave. How's that?
I'll catch you.
I actually have a 3 o'clock, so.
Okay, I'll catch you here just a minute.
Okay.
All right, thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I guess you're good.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you. Real Estate Services, I think Joel's going to do it today.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everybody's day?
Good.
Caesar couldn't make it, so if there's any questions that you guys have, I'd be more than happy to try to answer them if I can.
Any questions for Real Estate Services? Yes.
Hey, I just, were you part of the new council orientation?
Myself?
Yes.
No, I was not here that day, but I've been here for quite a while.
Perfect. Let's have you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you since you work up there with Ginger, because we see you from time to time, and I'm sure our new counselors might
Okay.
be able to run into you for something.
All right, thank you. My name's Joel Bean. I'm from Stillwell, Oklahoma. I've been with the Cherokee Nation Real Estate Services for almost 19 years. So I've been to this meeting a few times, but not in quite a little while. But that's about my story. I stick around the baseball fields during the summertime, and I watch a lot of college football in the winter. So, rough life. Yes, sir.
Joel's a great guy. He's a great person to reach out to if you have any questions in real estate, something that Ginger can't get to. I know he's always on the spot to help out as well, and appreciate you being here.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Wes.
it, Chair.
Any other questions? Yes.
I don't have a question, but I do, kind of, like Councilor Nofire said it, when you have them odd questions that you just don't know how to answer, Joel's always quick to either give you an answer or let you know kind of where to go. He's a great guy.
Any questions? Thank you, Joel. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Secretary of Natural Resources and Environmental Programs, Chad Harshall.
Good afternoon. I believe you have a copy of the Environmental Programs Report for this month. If you have any specific questions, I can certainly take those.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Harshaw, do we have plans on the, like the Baloo land and the things that we have acquired? Do we have any plans for what we're going to do with those, or
What land in particular are you referencing?
all the lots that, the Cave Springs, the Dry Creek Day School, the Baloo Day School, Mulberry Hollow, do we have any plans for that land that we have, or is that just stuff we're just taking back in?
So I'm not sure how to answer that question at this point. In terms of the environmental programs, report, I mean, we do provide environmental assessments for every property that we acquire. And so that's a normal part of the acquisition process. So in that regard, we've noted that here in the report as action items that we've completed for a typical transaction. But let me dig a little bit more, and I can get back to you on the specific plans for those properties.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sean? I'm sorry. Go.
I go. Hey, Chad, hope you're doing well today. Back, I know we're coming up on another, year, of where we're expiring on the extending of our compact for hunting and fishing. Now since McGirt's really been kind of the center focal point, we constantly hear about the sovereignty coming up, expressing sovereignty, and one of the things that it can't go without mentioning is sovereignty being an inherent right of being an Indian person is the ability to hunt and fish your waters within your reservation. And that doesn't matter if you belong to a federally recognized government or not, just as long as you're a Native American belonging by the DOI from how they acknowledge you're a Native American. So saying that since we're in a McGirt ruling, with this being a reservation, a sovereign inherent right as an Indian is to being able to expressly hunt and fish, which is kind of one of the basic fundamentals of our culture to be able to provide for our family. So saying that, it's just something as an argument point that you might be able to use going forward with negotiating a compact, because you can kind of tell the state, well, listen, our people in our reservation, they have the sovereign right just to hunt and fish within their reservation to provide for their family. We don't need to have a compact to do that. Now, what we can do for our citizens to get a more benefit to have this compact, I don't really know quite those parameters of what's being negotiated, but at least that, for me, is a big starting point moving forward, is that since McGirt, our sovereign inherent right to hunt and fish within our reservation to provide food for our family is something that you don't get any more basic fundamentals of being an Indian than that. And so how is the negotiations moving forward?
So I would point out, that's a pretty basic concept that, of course, we've included in our negotiations on hunting and fishing compact since 2015 and the extensions to present day. So we are continuing the conversation. The current compact expires at the end of December. I think we've made a lot of progress, and we're getting close to final terms. So I mean, that's all I have in the spirit of that discussion with the state to offer at this point in time. But I do think we're getting close, and the points you raised, are certainly part of the conversation.
So I guess moving forward with that conversation on me, for instance, if I go out there and I'm an Indian living in the reservation and I take a game or catch a fish and I don't have a license on me given to me by Cherokee Nation, since that's my sovereign inherent right from the DOI stance or the BIA stance, should I even be issued a ticket because I'm just expressing my inherent individual Indian sovereignty to be able to do that? I don't need a compact to do that, correct?
So I've pointed this out a number of times, when this topic has come up. And, whenever we look at a compact, there's a number of different balance of elements that we're trying to balance, right? So is it true that there are unlitigated hunting and fishing rights by way of treaty that the Cherokee Nation possesses and Cherokee citizens by and through, the government of the Cherokee Nation? Sure. As I said, those haven't been litigated, and that has been kind of the basis for why compacting works and why compacting works in this situation. In addition to that, the compact works especially well in this instance because of the amount of federal dollars that it unlocks and brings back into the state of Oklahoma for conservation. So as of right now, we have a compact that exists until December 31 of this year, and every eligible Cherokee citizen has been issued, or can be issued if they submit the form, a combination hunting and fishing license with a universal deer tag and a turkey tag. Now, so that would be the extent of privileges that would be available under the terms of the compact until January 31 of this year, or until December 31 of this year.
So that compact limits my ability of sovereignty, because it's not giving me the full advantage of being a Native American on the reservation to hunt and kill what I need for my family. I have to work within the confines of what the Cherokee Nation has negotiated a compact that tells me what I can do in the reservation, instead of having the open freedom to hunt and fish within inside the reservation. I now have to follow the one deer tag, one turkey tag. That's just kind of where my argument's coming from on a sovereignty matter to try to use going forward with a different compact or maybe no compact at all.
I hear what you're saying. I don't know that I agree with that assessment that you've laid out there necessarily. I think that, when you look at bag limits and season dates, every government, every state, practically every country in the world has some limitations that they impose in that way. In our instance, even absent a compact, our current code follows along with Oklahoma bag limits and season dates for the reason that it's not arbitrary or just that's what I feel like, or just that that's what a government should feel like adopting for any reason. It's based on conservation science. And that's why those limits exist. And to draw an example there, when you look back at the state of Oklahoma in the early 1920s, there was pretty much no deer population in this state due to overhunting. And so the bag limits and season dates exist to protect the conservation of the resource for everyone. And so I don't know that I agree with this assessment that a bag limit or a season date shouldn't apply to a Cherokee citizen exercising a treaty right on a reservation, because that is not good government, and that does not represent good conservation of a natural resource that should be made available to everyone.
Yeah, I agree. It wouldn't be good husbandry of the land to go off there and kill and catch and eat everything that you possibly can. And I do think that we need to have those limits. It's just, we're limiting our citizens even more than what the state says we could do. So that's just saying that we're doing less for them. So, but hopefully you can continue those negotiations and do them in a fruitful manner to where we have all the expressed rights that a Indian should have in the reservation dealing with limits. So appreciate it. Appreciate it, Chair.
Any other questions on environmental? Leo?
One quick one on the feral pig. When do you think that will go in effect? Program, probably.
That is a program that is kind of fairly recently rolled out. I think still looking at the details. I know it was a grant-funded piece that we're hopeful, looking at maybe deploying earlier next year. No definitive timeframes on this point, and still trying to look through the mechanics of, starting out maybe on tribal lands and properties that we own, and kind of assessing the best way to deploy that resource for it to be most effective and impactful.
What will we do with the pigs when we catch them?
There is a disposal protocol. I mean, it does require some, it's not it can be a pretty complicated process, and it does require that, you do a certain type of burial and covering and things of that nature to keep from the graves opening up down the road. So I don't know the actual details of the process. This is a grant that still hasn't transferred over to natural resources, so I'm not for sure all of the details of the grant, but there is a pretty robust process for after you catch a wild hog, how you dispose of it.
That article come out in Phoenix, and I've had a lot of excitement in Sequoia County because they're about to run us over down there. So
Oh, sure. Yeah.
appreciate you. Thank you.
Any other questions on environmental? Speaker?
So if we do change our bag limit for deer or whatever, the one thing that we do that I guess the state doesn't do is we don't charge. We basically get to get those, I guess, for free, I guess you'd say. So in the future, might there be a process where if a bag limit is set, and obviously if we want to conform to the state bag limit, you have to pay like $20 for an extra tag to do that. Would that maybe something that we could do through the nation instead of paying the state of Oklahoma? If you wanted to get extra, you could spend $20 for an extra tag through the nation, and that money could go to us instead of the state?
I mean, that's something that, we would certainly look at in the absence of a compact. I mean, one of the goals that we try to balance throughout this whole process is, giving opportunities for folks to hunt and fish within our reservation boundaries, or even in the context of a compact, at-large citizens outside of the reservation get the opportunity to utilize public lands and lands all across Oklahoma. So yeah, that's certainly something that we would balance in the absence of a compact. One of the goals that is inherently important to us is making sure that we deliver these for the lowest cost possible. In the case of a compact, it's no cost to a citizen and a relatively small cost to the tribe for the millions of dollars of conservation funding that comes down as a result of that agreement. And that impacts northeastern Oklahoma and all across the state of Oklahoma in a tremendous way.
So do you think probably money is one big thing? I mean, that the state's losing over for us getting what we get? I mean, the state, of course, we're reimbursing.
Right.
Does that reimbursement really cover pretty much what they're losing from us, or
So
close?
I don't think so. I think that, we issue, right now under the current compact, we issue a combination hunting and fishing license for $1 or $2 for a combination of $1 hunting, $1 fishing. And that is a regulatory requirement in order to release the federal funding formula that's based on license issues across the entire country. So when you look at an infusion of, let's say in our case, of 150,000 licenses, or if you compare it to, that is a huge number increase of licenses that the state would not have issued otherwise, based on the terms of the compact. The number of the actual dollar amount of the allocation depends, year to year based on gun sales, based on license sales, but it is a huge benefit for both the state and the tribe, because that money is not unearmarked funds. They have to use that money for conservation, and that's why you see, like, for example, at Barren Fork Creek, there's property that the state purchased and turned into public access where there was no other property in that area before, and that is all an example of the conservation dollars that come as a result of that compact.
All right, thanks, sir.
Joe?
Hey, Chad, you're an attorney. With all the decisions made in jurisdiction and land, do you see this might end up being sort of what Wes and Shambaugh were talking about, coming up, where we don't have to have that compact at any time? Because if we have jurisdiction over our land, why would we pay anybody? Just sort of like at my house, you just go out and shoot a deer and it's on your land. I know you got tags and all that, but you see that being maybe a case coming up when somebody files against that?
I think it's an option. I think, when you look at a compact, again, the compact is a valuable agreement between two sovereigns that benefits all parties, right? When you look at the amount of conservation dollars that come into northeastern Oklahoma as a result of that compact, it's hard not to appreciate that, right? And absent a compact, that money is going to go to Idaho, Arkansas, other states, based on the reduced numbers of licenses across the whole of the country. Sure, if there's no compact, that's a very different conversation, and that's part of what we're assessing, and part of our negotiation with the state, because it's not a secret. In the absence of a compact, with or without McGirt, there's legitimate hunting and fishing rights that perhaps would need to, or could, or would need to be litigated.
Right, that's what I was sort of getting at, because I think it'd end up popping up again like that.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a lot of cases that are going to have to get judged just for clarification
Sure.
on who literally has the rights, whether it's land, oil, water, property, where's the money go,
Well,
I mean, even if it is $20 for an extra ticket, somebody might be on, like, Daryl's land, and they're thinking, why would I pay $20 to anybody? It's my land, So I figured these are going to be some of the cases coming up soon.
Well, and I also think, we have to keep in mind that, with the compact hunting and fishing license that any of us in this room would receive, we receive a benefit, and we receive access to the entire state of Oklahoma for folks. And that is we can't maybe lose sight of what a benefit that is to at-large citizens that would otherwise, in an alternative world, would not be able to go in their neck of the woods or their public lands in their area that's outside of our reservation boundaries, and exercise those privileges. I mean, it would be a limiting factor to them, and there are, that impacts a lot of folks. And so when you look at a compact, you have to look at what the benefits are across the whole, and that's the reason why this compact was initiated, why it was successful, and why it continues to be successful today, because it brings an enormous benefit both in conservation dollars, both in privileges and opportunities for Cherokee citizens wherever they are within the state, and that's all a very important and very valuable balance, and that's part of what we're considering as we move along with these negotiations, always trying to expand privileges and trying to expand access to Cherokees wherever they are, and so I think that the conversation is getting close to culminating with final offer, whether accepted or rejected, and that is what I'm hopeful I can report to you in more detail as we get closer to the end of the year.
All right. Well, that's why I just want to know what your view was. So I'll ask you about the pine trees. No, I'm just kidding. All right, thank you, Chair.
Danny?
Mr. Harshit, when you're talking about conservation dollars, most of us only think of stuff that we hunt, but does this conservation money help, like, for the bat research, for the alligator snapping turtle that's on the endangered species list? Does that help with all this other stuff? within the tribe, within the nation?
It certainly touches on a number of those. I mean, I can't speak to those specific programs, but when you look at the conservation dollars that have been deployed in Oklahoma post the initial compact, you know, we have wetlands that have been established in certain areas that have been, you know, and that is that particularly beneficial for hunting and fishing? You know, yes, but it's also particularly beneficial for just a matter of conservation. So there are a number of projects that are funded that beyond what someone would traditionally look at as narrow to hunting and fishing that are beneficial to, in an ecological sense, to parts of Oklahoma, including northeastern Oklahoma. And that is also part of the conversation we're having is, you know, what does it look like to collaborate better on what those projects could be in a longer term compact?
Wes?
All right. I have one suggestion or thought that I just want to throw out there. Since it's changed a lot since McGirt and how this conversation has happened with the hunting and fishing compact. One is the amount of money that the state receives not being earmarked to come directly back into this reservation, the amount of money they receive for our tags. I know the other problematic issue that I've noticed in the past year is all Cherokee citizens now have to pay, like Cherokee Landing, they got to pay $10 to go there. And it's just if you're just driving through or if you're unloading a boat, that's a lot of money. I thought that would be something that we would get to be able to go unload a boat. If I'm signing a compact and have to give up my inherent right as a sovereign Indian to the Cherokee Nation to then compact, I should also receive the benefit to unload my boat in the waters within inside my reservation for free, if it's going to be a state park. The other thing is to really just kind of flip it backwards and say, why should we negotiate with the state on a compact since it's inherently ours anyways for our citizens? Why don't we have the state compact with us because they have state citizens here? That would create job entrepreneurship for our marshal service. We could hire additional marshals dedicated specifically for hunting and fishing regulations. We could charge non-citizens membership to hunt and fish within the side of our reservation and develop our own commerce dedicated specifically to improve the hunting and fishing within the side of our reservation. And I think that is a different way of looking at it, and a different lens that might benefit our citizens, our reservation, and would give us more control of what we're doing inside of our reservation. You know, I think that it also would probably avoid having to have litigation like Councilor Joe Deere was saying, where someone, take for instance, you know, Wes Studi, great guy, great Cherokee, everybody knows he's a Cherokee, but he's not registered in Cherokee Nation. If he was to come back here inside the reservation being an Indian, by the federal government, he is an Indian, hunting inside of a reservation and killed or caught a fish and got a ticket, why would he be penalized for hunting inside of a reservation for being an Indian? And I think we could avoid that even too if we started looking at this being as not a state tribe compact, but more of a tribe, we get to do what we want to do. State, you want your citizens to have some benefits. We're going to compact with you guys and try to work this out, or maybe not compact at all and just do it all regulatory on our own. And I think that's something that, I mean, I'm all for open of trying to work with your department and drafting some sort of legislation. If your compact fails, we could come up with some regulations of hunting and fishing inside the reservation and start developing that as an actual big, you know, opportunity for our people. It's just something to throw out there as a thought if this compact fails. So
I would point out, you know, as far as the access to the state parks, you know, that land is privately owned or leased by the state. And, you know, McGirt and the impact on individual land ownership and access, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. So it's not like a treaty right or a post-McGirt world would give you the right to go on private property and use their private or public, but whatever, not owned by the tribe or not owned or owned by the state. You know, they charge through their park system certain fees, and that's kind of beyond our control. In terms of, you know, the points you raised about us compacting with them or them compacting with us, it's still a compact. It's the same concept, and there's some pretty significant misunderstandings in how tribal treaty rights work there that would take some time to really unpack and walk through. So I hear what you're saying. I don't know that it's very accurate in terms of a proper assessment of treaty laws.
well, it's very accurate when it comes to boat ramp access. With the state parks, you could just simply say, hey, well, you want to compact with us? All of our citizens show our ID card, they get in the state parks for free. The federal government allows us to go to national parks for free. Why shouldn't the state? If we've got a reservation and we're giving things up, and we're having to buy something from them, which is inherently ours anyways, which is a hunting and fishing license. So it's just something to take in consideration, that they don't want to work with us and give my people what they need. I'm gonna throw it back out there and say, well, then we don't need the state, and we can do it on our own, and we can develop something maybe even superior than what the state's been able to offer to the entire area, just because we're a smaller body, and we should be the best stewards of our land, because hunting and fishing is an inherent culture process of who we are as a people. So, but once again, appreciate all their work and enjoy the conversations and the dialogue that we have here. I think that hopefully they bear some fruit. So, appreciate it. Appreciate you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
And just to clarify, there are 2 marshals who are responsible as game wardens. That's their job.
That is correct. We have 2 full-time marshals that are wildlife conservation marshals, is how I would describe them. And they work in that capacity, similar to a Oklahoma wildlife marshal or Oklahoma wildlife officer would. And with that, one other thing I'd like to point out as an update. This weekend we have our first youth draw hunt that we're rolling out with the Sequoia County property. There's been a lot of work put in by our staff, particularly Lane Kendall, our wildlife conservation manager, Christina Carroll, the chief administrator of operations for all of the programs in my shop. And so we're really excited that this is the first of about 7 hunts that we're going to have all through October and November. So we look forward to getting young folks out there, getting them equipped to hunt and enjoy the outdoors and this property. So I look forward to updating you next council meeting after we get through about 3 of those hunts, which include youth with a guardian, elders, and veterans. So.
Any other questions? Got anything else for us?
That would be it, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Old business done, pending new business. Speaker, you want to take that?
This is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of land in trust, Blue Day School, 10 acres, Cave Springs Dry Creek Day School, 10 acres, Mulberry Hollow Day School, 18.72 acres, Oak Hill Piney Day School, 10 acres, Oaks Mission Rocky Ford Day School, 5.0 acres, and Redbird Smith Day School, 40 acres. And I put that in the form of a motion. Also, it needs to go to full council tonight if passes.
Got a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Announcements. The next meeting is scheduled for November the 15th. I need one more motion. Got a motion and a second? All in favor? We are adjourned.